I almost left the finger and slipped there. But good morning, everybody. I'm Eric N1JUR, and welcome to another Brew and Activate. Yeah, this little pesky spot over here is just kind of in memoir of a certain individual who, has been sans missing for a little while. No, just kidding. She's off, getting makeup done because she was, as they say, a wizard is, never late. Well, this wizard didn't come prepared either, so she had to go fix her wand or something. So she'll be back in a bit. So yeah, we are back with the full crew here, and looking forward to hearing all of the latest and greatest with Shannon and all the fun activities she's doing over there in the other side of the pond. But with that, if you're watching live, good morning, everybody. Bob, you have made it. I am so impressed. Good to see that you're awake and on Brew and Activate this morning. So with that, watching live, say hello to everybody in the chat, and let us know where you're tuning in from, as always. And as good morning, Rabbit Ham. Yeah, we'll hit the roll call now that we've got our co-host of the mostest there when she finally gets back from wherever she. The timing is impeccable. All good either way. So yeah, there is a little bit of a poll there. So if you haven't noticed in the chat, please chime in on that. We're going to dive into some really cool, interesting kind of talk that kind of jives with what we talked about from last week's episode a little bit with Stan. We're going to talk POTA bags and how they're lying to you, man. I think your POTA bag is definitely, in need of some therapy and, a little bit of cleaning up. It's hoarding its stuff too much. So we're going to get into that a little bit. But with that, as always, let's catch folks up. If you're new here, as always, we are about real world POTA, and we talk about the wins, the slow days, the weird stuff and lessons you only learn by doing, guys. If you're not out there activating, you're not out there getting out and playing radio, then what gives, man? Come on, get off the pot. So, whether you activate, you hunt, or you're just POTA or portable curious, like I like to say, then you're in the right place, guys. So thanks again for hanging out with us this morning. And if this is your type of conversation, make sure you hit that subscribe and hang out with us for a little bit. It's free, and it always helps us and this show reach other people so they get to be as cool as us hanging out in the POTA world, playing some radio. With that, let's get into some quick housekeeping stuff, as always, before we start getting into some of the other details, and hopefully, she'll appear again. I promise she's here. I just finished talking with her. If you're looking and you can't attend our live streams on Friday mornings, which I know Jobby Job gets in the way, and damn the man. But you have an alternative. You can always pick us up on your favorite podcast player. Just a quick search for a Brew and Activate, and we'll pop up there, and you can listen to us. We always try to get the shows a couple after every Friday out, a couple hours after. So it's in your, role there, and you can always stay on top of all the stuff that we talk about. And if you got a second or two, please, let us know. Share, your thoughts and your opinions, and, go ahead and give us a thumbs up on those podcasts, or let us know. Provide a comment if you've got a podcast player tool that allows you to do that. And, if you want to rep the show, please, we love all you guys. And we appreciate everybody, in the chat and who's part of the Brew Crew community here. If you love repping some of our merch here, you can always head over to makerfweird.com and check all of that out. Excuse me. And, there's always some cool stuff going on. We're adding more of our, Shannon's POTA wagon stuff and a few other things, but you can find all of that over on makerfweird.com. And all the stickers, hats, and everything else is there, and it helps support the show as always. And heck, like we say, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Double check, because the numbers kind of change a lot, and we're getting closer to the 6K. For those that have not been over at n1jur.com, we've got a little 6K, strengthometer over there happening. And once we hit 6K, we are going to have a party. We're rallying all of our supporters, vendors, and saying, hey, what can you do to chime in on the party? So there'll be some really cool giveaway stuff there. So you're definitely not going to miss that. But at the same time, we're still making strides there. So what you can do to get us closer and get us there faster is through simple, obviously subscribe, share these videos to some other POTA curious folks. And she has arrived. Thank you. She's going to get set up now. Hold on a sec. They've got a mic her and the whole 9 yards. We'll dive into this in a second, but help us out, help us get to 6K because I'm looking forward to it. So share a video, comment, be part of the community as it always helps. It gets more and more people, the word out and therefore we start to grow more. And, that's what I'm about. I want the community to grow. I love sharing this stuff. I want to hear from you guys. I want to learn more. And so that's what we're all about here. So, definitely do that. That gets us going. And with that, one last thing before I throw it over to say hello. Northeast Ham Radio is this weekend. And so what's that mean to you guys? Well, yeah, we've got a little bit of a surprise. We're taking it back. If you happen to be a member of the channel already, you'll notice that the video is already out there. But we're going back a little bit to, the good old 80s there. Sorry, Shannon was not in the picture originally. But we're taking back to the technician. So hopefully Shannon will be on, but I know I definitely will be there. And we're going to talk about some, of our things as we were as technicians when, we had known nothing except that the PTT is what you press to say hello. So we're going to share some of those stories and, folks like Mike N2MAK, The Grouch, Rabbit Ham, and many others are going to be on there. So come hang out with us. And that is Saturday, the 25th, which is actually tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hoping to see you guys there. You can see it on our channel. You can head over to any one of the other channels there too as well and support us all there. And love to see you in the chat. So with that, enough of me chatting. Shannon, say hello. You remember the show?
Yeah. Hi, guys. How is everybody? I miss you all.
That was weak. That was weak. You have the floor, woman. Take it.
Yeah, so, I'm still over here in literally sunny England because it has been, probably 30-something days, 34 days without any significant rainfall, at least in any places that we have been. Although I will say in the first or second night that I was here and we were down in Weymouth, we had thunderstorms and that was it. So, and then it drizzled one day, maybe 3 days ago. But yeah, so, but at least
does it normally rain in England anyway?
Yeah, I mean normally it's sort of cold and cloudy and rainy, and I was told not to bring 5 pairs of shorts, but there's maybe only been one day where I felt like, oh, I could be wearing pants right now. And then even that one day, it's it got sort of warmer towards the middle or end of the day. Hey, Mom. So,
hey, Mom.
Yeah. It's never ending.
It's the POTA Mom.
Yep.
Live. Very cool. Well, we're going to give Shannon, obviously, a chance to play catch up with us and share some of the stuff that's been going on. And so with that, heck, if you haven't already and you've already been a part of this community for a little bit, travel on over to our Discord because we always love to see and hang out with folks there. So if you want to continue this type of conversation even after, we always love to have you over there. Come join in on a number of channels, Brew Activate being one of them. And we always enjoy having the conversation. I mean, he should be your producer. That's it. Make it easy. Pay the kid. So it is very cool, very cool. So with that, just a couple of things, obviously, heck, with this, we know YouTube's ads suck and bother us to no end. And so we always try to keep this show ad free for sure along the way. And so with that, if by doing that, what we like to do is every week, we always like to do a little bit of a super chat there. So for the measly amount of $10, it keeps the ads away and you keep the show ad free for the entire length of it. But if you can't help in that sense, we always appreciate you, frequenting our, relationships and partnerships with folks. You can go over and check out the n1jor.com discounts page. There's a lot of great, discounts over there for things like Reliance Antenna and Seed Studios and on and on. So if you're in the market for some, mesh-tastic stuff or, another antenna or, anything radiotti or whatever, if that's some of your little radios that you want to add to the stable there, yeah, check those out. Go and use our link. And in essence, you'll be helping us and helping them. And so with that, it's a win-win, So enough of that. With that, Shannon, please let us know what's going on. Catch us up.
Yeah, so if you guys follow me on Facebook, I know some of you do. I have been trying to post some pictures on there to sort of show what we've been up to. And it's like not every day, we're not doing something every day, right? But it just so happened that last week we kind of had a big week where we went to Yorkshire, which is about 2 hours north of where we are now in the East Midlands. And we were supposed to be there for like 4 nights, 5 days, but I ended up adding on one more night. So we ended up being there for 6 days, 5 nights. And honestly, I could have stayed there forever because it was just so beautiful. And there was so much to see and do. And I would actually go back and possibly, like, I think we were sort of more a little bit in like the East Yorkshire area. So I wouldn't mind like potentially going back and seeing a little bit more of like West Yorkshire. Um, but yeah, one of the first things that we did that was completely unexpected, and I was telling Eric about it before the show, is probably like this isn't really the right crowd for this, but me being a girl growing up in the 90s, I grew up with like all these movies like A Little Princess, Black Beauty, and The Secret Garden, the 1993 version of Secret Garden with Maggie Smith as Mrs. Medlock and Kate Maberly as Mary Lennox. So all these movies I was looking up like what were the filming locations that they used for, such and such house or whatever. And a lot of times they tend to be like way more in the south, closer to London, probably because it's, closer to where the film studio is or whatever. They don't have to travel so far. But it just so happened that the house that they used for Misselthwaite Manor in this one version of Secret Garden, which, I had on VHS. So back in the day when we didn't have streaming and all you had was VHS and, you only had 10 movies. So you watched the same one over and over again
and over.
every day that it rained or whatever.
Be kind, rewind.
So, yes. So it just so happened that the house that they used for Misselthwaite Manor was only like 15 minutes away. And this was on Monday, the day that we got there, that I looked it up. And then when I looked up the website, it was like, the house is open house on Tuesdays from this time to this time, and we give tours at 2 o'clock. So I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. Today's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday. Like, this is what we're doing tomorrow is we're going to see this house. So we went there, and, it's like this, manor house, basically, this country estate that was originally built in the 1700s, but then they sort of tore down most of the old house and rebuilt it in the 1800s. But come to find out a couple things besides the fact that they used it for the exterior shots for Misselthwaite Manor and other things as well. We found out that they actually used it in the TV show Victoria. If anybody here watched Victoria, when Albert has to go back to Germany because his father has died, they used it for,
Nope.
the Coburg Manor or whatever it was, some inside and outside shots. So, but we found out that for one thing, it was used during the 1940s as an RAF base, an officer's base. I think it was used in World War I too as a convalescent home, if I remember correctly. I think the lady who gave the tour told us about that as well, which it was an amazing tour. It was like a 2-hour tour, which I was not expecting. And it was going through like every room and talking about all the different furniture in the rooms and all this stuff. So, there was that. And then, so we just so happened to find this plaque that was in the main hall, kind of off to the side, that was talking about the person who owned the house last. And his name was Dr. Rolfe, and
Rolf.
he was a lecturer at Harvard University. So I figure he probably came from Massachusetts, maybe, or lived there at least for a time. And ultimately, he ended up passing away this past December in Florida. But he bought the house in the 1980s when it was basically like close to being in ruins and needed a lot of renovation. And he was the president of Tandy and Radio Shack. So that was like so cool, right? Because we went here for this completely unrelated reason. And then we ended up finding all these things about the house that like connected to, things that we're passionate about, right? We're passionate
Mhm.
about World War II. Um, and, obviously, this gentleman being the VP of Tandy and Radio Shack had a lot to do, with our ham radio hobby and, computing and things that, we all know and love and benefit from today. So it was really cool to go there and see that and learn about him and his life and the legacy that he has left by saving this house, putting it into a trust, making it into something that can make money by hosting events and weddings, and being used as a filming location so that the house can be, preserved and maintained and here for, generations of people to come to know and learn about. And one of the most amazing things, if you look up Allerton Castle fire, in the early 2000s, they had a devastating fire. And when I tell you that it was parts of the castle were nearly gutted on the inside, and floors were burned out, ceilings were burned out, this amazing dining room that was all wood paneling was just completely destroyed. And the lady told us, she said, Dr. Rolfe said to the staff at the castle, like, listen, we restored this castle once, we can do it again. And I mean, you would never know that it had this incredible fire if
Mhm.
they didn't say it, because it just looked so amazing and so beautiful. So definitely,
Nice.
if anyone's in the Yorkshire area, I recommend a trip to Allerton Castle if you're, a fan of the Secret Garden or Victoria. And it's probably been used for other stuff too. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up again to see all the different filming locations that it was used for.
Well,
So,
we definitely have got a lot of folks in here this morning, and I think Rabbit Ham hit on this again. It's got to stick. Like he had mentioned that you need to be the POTA mom. You got to play this up. Like this is like liquid gold here. So he just confirmed exactly what I was saying earlier.
and
But
and Bob, no, I haven't changed my hair color. It's
nope.
just so for one thing, I have this like window next to me that the sun is coming in, so it's kind of creating some weirdness. I'm not on my usual webcam, but it's been like what over a month now since I've colored my hair, so it's probably starting to fade a little bit. We can't
Well, and
all,
you're higher above the equator, so the sun is more in
yeah.
your the view.
Listen, okay? The struggle is real because when I
Is
tell
it?
you that the sun doesn't now when we first got here the sun was setting at like 9:30 at
Mm.
night. Now it's pushed back a little bit to the sun sets around like 9:15, and it's like almost still twilight until 10 o'clock at night. Trying to get
Yep.
Miles to go to sleep like when it still looks light outside is just the struggle is real.
Well, the good news is you'll come back and we'll be in standard time, as you may or may not heard. And so it'll be dark when you wake up and dark when you go to bed. So
Yeah,
it's all good.
but I thought that they had passed that before and then nothing ever really happened, and now I guess they're passing it again. So we'll see
Guess
what
they got nothing
happens.
better, but whatever.
To me, it doesn't really bother me to change the clock back and forth.
No,
So
most of the
I
time
don't
it
know.
does it automatically for me, so I don't have to worry about it, and I only have
Yeah,
to
like
fight
it
with the
doesn't.
microwave and the stove.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect my sleep patterns that much, but what
Well,
can you do?
I just noticed this sneak in while Shannon was kind of updating us. Apparently, Bruce has been a ham since May. Congratulations, Bruce! Welcome to the Hamily here. I saw this sneak in there, and so welcome. Hopefully, you're getting some really good stuff out of the show and meeting new people and getting deeper down the rabbit hole, as they say. So yeah, welcome and congratulations on getting your ticket.
So, and then one other thing I'll mention. Well, there's so many things I could mention, right? And I know, Eric said like I could just have my whole segment.
Segment.
I could have a whole show where I just talk about things that we did. So, but we did do a POTA when we were there in Yorkshire. So, sort of like another little bit of a funny story was, being a big fan of all creatures great and small. That was one of the things we wanted to do was go to this museum. It's called the World of James Herriot, and it's, the actual veterinary surgery and house that was owned and lived in by the guy who wrote the books, All Creatures Great and Small, under the name of James Herriot. But his real name was Alf White. And so we went to the house and we did the tour, and that was all cool. And then we were like, okay, what can we do for a POTA around here? So we go down the street to like the closest park that was, marked as a POTA. But it was like, first of all, it was really hot that day. It was very sunny. There wasn't a lot of shade, and it was sort of electrically noisy because there was a lot of houses around. So I was like, okay, well, let's see how close is the Yorkshire Dales. So I do a little Google search, and the closest entrance for the Yorkshire Dales National Park is in this little village called Grassington, which is where they actually shoot the show, the exterior shots for the fictional town of Derby. Again, it all ties into movies. I love movies and filming locations. I used to, if anybody here knows, I used to watch this YouTuber named Adam the Woo, and he actually passed away, unfortunately, very unexpectedly, back a few months ago. But he was a huge Disney nerd, and he was also a huge movie nerd. So he used to go to all these different filming locations. So I used to love watching him for his filming locations. So anyway, so I was like, oh, this is perfect. Grassington is only like an hour away. It's also in the Yorkshire Dales National Park, so we can go see the filming location. Maybe I'll run into the incredibly handsome man who plays the Dr. Siegfried Farnan, which didn't happen. They weren't filming, unfortunately. But that's okay. So we took some pictures around the village center and got something to eat and drink. And then we went over and we did our little POTA, which so the drive to get there, though, we did not realize. When they talk about driving over hill and dale, they are not kidding, okay? I wish that I had the dash camera set up, because when I tell you it was up and down and side to side and these narrow little country roads. But again, it was the most beautiful place I have ever seen in my life. And if I could have stayed there, I would have stayed there forever, because like you get to the top of the hill and you can just see so far around you. All it is like sheeps and cows and chickens and horses and these like stone ancient stone walls. So it was just so beautiful, and it would be so perfect to like just be at the top of this hill and do some VHF UHF line of sight work. I think that would be so cool. So that was our little trip to the Yorkshire Dales to Grassington. So that was kind of our other little adventure. Aside from like all these, amazing museums that we went to, the Royal Armories, where we saw like so many guns and armor and swords and lances and, stuff from ancient times all the way up to modern times, even like, even make believe guns and weapons like, blasters from Star Wars and, pulse guns from Aliens and stuff like that. So that was really cool. What was the other thing we went to? We went to this place called Eden Camp, which was like a former prisoner of war camp. from the 1940s. And the last museum that we went to was, we were supposed to go to the National Railway Museum, but Miles decided he didn't want to go there. He wanted to go to the Yorkshire Air Museum, so we ended up going there, which was a former RAF base. It was formerly RAF Elvington, and Mr. Eagle-eyed Mike Golf Zero RFD. Very first thing he notices as soon as we like walk in is like, I see open wire feeder. So, they have this, loop antenna going around kind of like their main courtyard. And so we went into the little hut where the feeder was coming in, and there was a sign that said wireless room open today. So we ended up talking to the gentleman who was, sort of the trustee of the station there at that time. His name was Ken. His call sign was G4KCF, if I remember correctly. So he was really cool. He chatted with us for a while, and the call sign of the station there is GB0YAM for Yorkshire Air Museum. So definitely check that out. They had a lot of interesting and unique airplanes and some other early aviation innovators.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you still disappointed me. No video.
I know, because I haven't posted any videos.
Yeah, all you have to do is take this little stupid thing that they call a smartphone and just make a video.
Yeah, I mean, I do have like an 11-minute video of Miles doing this like low ropes course at this little park down the street called Conkers.
Well, if you do it, give him an NDA to sign. That way he doesn't sue you. That'll be fine.
So so that was cool. So now it's like we had that big week last week, so now we're kind of like doing a little bit more of like a low key rest week this week. But there's a couple things coming up that I want to do. We're gonna try to do some more day trips, which some of these day trips are still like 2 hours away, but there's this event at this house. It was called like Broadgate Castle or something like that. Bradgate. I can't remember their exact name.
Probably Broadgate, but yeah.
But so they're having like an archaeology day there, and the reason why this house is significant is like it's the childhood residence of Lady Jane Grey, who was like Queen of England for 9 days. So there's a big like park around there and the house. So we're gonna, maybe go see that for their archaeology day. So I think that'll have some stuff that Miles will like. And then next weekend, either August 1st or 2nd, we might try to go to this farm in Shropshire. It's called Acton Scott Historical Farm. And for anyone who watches like social history documentaries from the UK from the early 2000s, they did this show there. It was called Victorian Farm, where these historians, Ruth Goodman, Peter Gint, and Alex Langlands, they live and work for a year like Victorian farmers. Basically, they have to wear the clothes, they have to live in the house.
So it's sort of like what's his name from? Oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. He did that whole Jeremy Clarkson's farm.
Yeah. So hopefully we're going to go see that. The reason why I want to do it that particular weekend is they're having a 1940s weekend. So I think that'll be kind of cool to like go do, even though we did do one other 1940s weekend when we went to the Black Country History Museum, which was also very cool. I can't get enough of, get enough of 1940s and history. And like, I feel like we don't have that much like 1940s history events in, at least not in, the northeast of Massachusetts that I know about.
Yeah, there's plenty. I could point you in a few, but.
Well, I mean, they did have like, at the American Heritage Museum, they had that, the battle for the airfield. That was a 1940s thing, but it wasn't quite the same, right? Like
you should go check out the museum that we went to do W1BB. There's plenty of history for that time frame that you probably be drooling all over.
I know, but I'm talking about like, so, you go to these events like the one that we did at the Black Country History Museum, and they have, like They have vendors that are selling vintage clothes. They have people that are playing 1940s music, singing 1940s music, doing swing dancing.
But we call that Ren fairs out here, and we just go further into the 1800s because we feel that's our golden era, not the 1940s around here.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Is, I would say actually that, we, especially right now with America 250th, we're doing a lot of Revolutionary War stuff, right? And that's what we do a lot of in, New England, especially, in Northeast and Massachusetts around Boston. There's a lot more Revolutionary War reenactors. You go down south, and I feel like you get a lot more like Civil War reenactors. So I think it sort of depends on like, what part of the US you're in, and, and what type of reenacting is popular there. But,
Right.
I, I like all living history. So, but I just happen to really like the 1940s.
Cool.
I like the style, the fashion. I like the, the make, do, and mend kind of spirit.
Yep.
So,
The roll up your sleeves and get to it kind of deal.
yeah.
Well, we got a few things here I want to catch folks up because,
I'm gonna
I
use
see
my new mug.
there we go. Yorkshire mug
Yeah, so I got this from Starbucks. It's one of those, like
over in
mugs.
England.
Yeah, it's one of those mugs where they, they have all the different places, and so they had a Yorkshire one. Oh yeah, you are here, Starbucks. You are here. So this is my Starbucks. You are here.
It's gone.
This
There we
is my Starbucks. You are here Yorkshire mug.
So let's dive in a few comments I got tagged here. So Brickhouse, the band never broke up. It's sort of like those bands that go for like Aerosmith. They go a long time and then they do a side venture. Shannon's off doing her side venture. She'll come back. We'll continue, and she does already. So the band's never broken up. So
and I honestly feel bad when I get like the little notification on my phone from Discord that says, Brew and Activate is starting, from the Discord. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot. I was supposed to be home to do Brew and Activate.
That's all right. Totally fine. You're having a time of your life, and I would expect you so. And, the guys and folks here, they've done an awesome job holding up the fort and dealing with all of my, kind of antics. Like, you don't know how much you handle most of the chat. And we actually haven't done the roll call yet. So we'll do that in a second because I think you do that well. And I've done a bang-ass job of it. And Shannon, Jabberjaws has made a couple comments about it. So all good. All good. But, I just wanted to bring attention to a few things. Yes, Tortoise, it is growing on me this week 3. So, we'll see how long it goes. But if you are part of the Brew Crew and you are a member, I'm gonna be putting out a poll, hopefully end of this weekend, to see kind of how long this really has to go before we, check it off the list and I can go back to my old life, which I truly enjoy.
Maybe we just need to have like another fundraiser for you to shave it off.
No. And I'm going to debunk this. I don't know what you guys are talking about. There was nothing that walked behind me. Nobody said hello. She's off at work. So don't be saying wifey. She likes to remain behind the scenes. Funny story is I did a quick venture video where we did POTA, or during POTA Sports Parks weekend, and she wanted to be part of the closing video, in terms of comments and stuff. And I somehow wasn't paying attention because the sun was in my eyes, and I thought I pressed record and I didn't record. So she was actually in that video, but she's not because I didn't record it. So I don't have anything except the camera going into my pocket thinking it was off and, 10 minutes of my, pocket, and noise in the background. So she had her debut, but at the same time, my daughter's the only one that's got the can do, let's get on the internet and, put her face out there. So, and, outside of that, Bob said, yes, that, was or wasn't, I will not, confirm or nor deny. So anyway, since we have been sans roll call, you want to go through the list. And actually, before you do that, before I close it, I want to let you guys know, if you haven't already picked up, there's a poll out there. for today that I want to get your input on. So if you haven't jumped in on it, please, put your vote in there. And if you got something specific you want, I'm definitely tagging it in the chat so we can go back and review it when we start talking about, why your POTA bag's lying to you. So, Shannon, do you want to do the honors there and bang out hellos to folks?
Yeah, so it looks like we have about 19 people watching right now. So if you're watching, make sure you drop your hello in chat. We got Pepe, HB9, EVT. We got Roger McKeon, Oz, always. He's always here. Kyle, NN9Z, good morning. Bob Kopf, also always here. The old standbys that we can always rely on. Rabbit Ham. Toby AD2CD. Who else we have? James KI50EB is in there. Foxtrot Fred. Bruce Wilson KJ5PWT. Was that the one that you said he just got his license in May? So
No, that was Bruce.
yeah,
Bruce.
Bruce.
Oh, did you say Bruce? Sorry.
Yep. Been a ham
okay.
since May, so congratulations, Bruce.
Yes.
He says he's part of the QRP gang. So we got Ham Man CT. Did I say Rabbit Ham already? I think I did.
I think you did. Yep.
Scrolling down, Outcast 341. And then of course Mike Smith, Golf Zero RFD, who is in chat, and he's also sitting just off to my left here, so he gets to hear me in real life and on the screen. So poor him.
In stereo.
Yes. We got Zinmaker 2522, Bricker House, Tortoise Overland. And Dawn came in, Dawn N5 SKT. So hello, Dawn.
Very cool. Good to see you. All right.
So I think that's it. And
Good.
we lost 4 viewers by me doing that. So
That's totally fine. That's okay. They're probably all on your channel anyway. So you can see the
N2
breakdown. Yes,
Mike
they were on
N2
your
MAK.
channel.
So Mike just came in, and Dawn, say hi to Mike for me, Shannon. Mike, Dawn says hi.
Yes, we are the party people, Mike. Yeah, now that we got Shannon, that's a lively bunch. So very cool.
So and
Here's the roof.
I know you already just talked like tomorrow's Northeast Ham Radio. So the only bad thing, right? Northeast Ham Radio starts at like 6 o'clock Eastern time. That is 11 o'clock at night, the time here. So I may or may not be able to make it on. It depends on, like how late I can stay up, for one thing. And then, also obviously don't want to like accidentally wake Miles up. Although usually on those nights, I just let him stay up as late as he wants anyway, right? And then
he's on vacation. Let the poor kid vacation.
Listen, mommy needs her mommy time too, because I can't watch any grown-up shows with him around. So, he needs to still go to bed at a halfway decent time. And don't want to keep Mike up either with my,
I'm sure he's a big problem.
with my incessant chattering on Northeast Ham Radio.
Well, then invite him on. He's more than welcome to come hang out.
No, I think he prefers to be behind the camera, not in front of it.
Understood. Well, then you have a perfect cameraman there, and yet you haven't used him. So, strike 2.
Wow.
All right. Well, with that, let's kind of get things going here. And so we're going to kick off our usual Porta Minute here. All right. Well, before we do that, actually, I just noticed Tortoise, thank you again for being a member for 14 months. Awesome job. Appreciate all the support there, man. And I finally got all of the last little trinkets wrapped up. And so your yearly, anniversary box is coming out soon. So it's packed with a bunch of extra stuff because, I felt it was a little light. So, we added it up. So, yeah, if you want to become a member and get some really cool free, custom N1JUR swag that no one else has and can get anywhere else, then that's one way to kind of be part of the membership there. And so thank you, Tortoise, and others that are part of the Brew Crew. We appreciate all the support. So enough with that. Let's get into the POTA Minute. So those that are new to this, well, POTA Minute, it's the one small POTA idea, one real-world observation. 60 seconds, no more, no less, just to get you thinking. There's no right answer, just the stuff you start noticing after you do a few activations or a few hundred hunts. Let me know if this has happened to you. Say so in the chat. If it's different or you do it differently, then pipe up, let us know. So today's lovely POTA Minute is solo or squad. We all love this stuff. I highly, this is near and dear to my heart here. So solo activations are peaceful. They are. I did one myself when I went to, Fort Dummer, and it was great because it was just me, the radio, and nature. But doing a group activation, that's the way to go too. I mean, getting new hams in, getting people active on the radio. You can't go wrong with that. And even with your bunch of people, you don't always have to feel like you're stressing to get the activation done, because you can pool your efforts together and all come out shining with a big win there. And again, both are worth doing. So heck, if you're getting into a rut and you're feeling like you're a little bit like, oh, this is, starting to feel like work, like we talked about with Stan last week. Well, this is a good opportunity. Go find a ham in your club who may not have done POTA or is too reluctant to because they're too nervous for whatever reason. Drag them out with you. Go to your favorite spot you go all the time that you know well. Take them out, play a little radio, and I guarantee it will invigorate you and them to get into POTA more and, start doing what we love. So with that, Shannon, any comments?
Yeah, you know me. I am all about the squad group POTA. I mean, I invent events just to make people do group POTA with, groups of YLs. And I think it's so much more fun when you can get a bunch of people together and ham radio becomes more than just a sum of its parts. It's more than just ham radio. It becomes this social community building, team building event. So I'm all for more POTA, and I love passing the mic. There is
nothing wrong with it.
Nothing more special than, sharing a mic between...
Embracing hands as you fuddle with this little piece of plastic between passing.
Exactly. How else can you let your POTA crush know that you're into him if you can't brush hands as you pass the mic back and forth?
Shannon was one of those little kids growing up that was constantly told over and over, keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself.
I will neither confirm nor deny whether or not I tried to kiss boys in kindergarten.
That says a lot already. Oh, very cool. Yeah, as Don says, group POTA is field day light, 100%. I don't think we need field days any longer. I think we just need a lot more POTA activations. Moving on from there, because, hauling out your gear for literally half a day, a whole day, whatever, to go do an event that you kind of come out of it sweating and feeling like, you're exhausted. POTA does it so much better. So that's my 2 cents. Okay. Well, let's kind of dive into our topic today a little bit. We're going to talk around your POTA bag is lying to you. And I'm going to say that, this is kind of another group therapy kind of session here. And I appreciate everybody who's chimed in and given me, some great feedback and input along the way of, the whole process there, and how they've evolved and realized, some of their, items that are sitting in a bag. Throughout this whole kind of talk a little bit, I've got my bag over here. I've got a QRP bag over in the corner here. If I bring it in the scene real quick here, we're going to kind of take pieces out from time to time. So I have this set up for probably QRP specifically, and it's a beach kind of setup. And we're going to go through it and see if there's stuff in it that kind of basically no longer needs to be there, because I am not immune to, adding an extra zipper bag or adding a, accessory pouch or, taking too many antennas with me and only really using one. You ever experienced that, Shannon?
I mean, I always have extra antennas in the trunk of the Subaru, so
True, but you didn't bring the Subaru with you to England, so you probably
right.
had to change your MO, right?
Yeah, I just use whatever Mike sets up for me.
So you got an assistant then. All right,
He
well
sets
that
up the antenna and I operate the radio. That's the way this relationship works out.
nice deal there, Mike. Do you hopefully she gives you an opportunity to make a few contacts too.
I pass the mic to him if he wants it.
Understood. If he wants it. If he's been a good boy. All right, well, let's get into it for sure here. So let me bring up my slides here. So,
Oh yeah, so I did just want to like throw one
oh,
thing out there. We
feel free.
had a question from where did it go? Because I did star it.
Mhm.
This ADHD life. He wanted to know, are you guys going to be at Northeast Ham Expo? And I answered, I'm still going to be in England during Northeast Ham Expo this year because I think they're having it like a week earlier than what they normally do.
Mm,
Um,
I don't think so, but
so I won't be there, but I didn't know if you were going to be there, Eric, or if anyone else is going to be there. Actually, I do know for a fact that a bunch of people from Adventures in Wonderland are going to be there because we have, a Northeast Ham Exposition thread in our server, and they've like already booked tickets for various dinners. And they've like reserved a table under the name of Adventures in Wonderland. So, if you're in one land, if you live, work, or play in one land and you aren't part of the Adventures in Wonderland server and going to Ham Exposition or doing Squad POTA is something that you're interested in, definitely make sure that you join the Adventures in Wonderland Discord server because that is what we are all about.
yeah. Nice. If you want to throw that link in the chat, feel free. I had to go grab it. But real quick, I did see Mike, although he did duck back out. And so thank you, Mike, for being 7 months part of the Brew Crew. Appreciate that. As all of our members might know, or you may not know, if you are part of the Brew Crew, and M1JUR, subscriber base, you've got, shout outs that you can use as well. So feel free to use those because we always love to make sure that we, bring you out to the light and say thank you as well. So all right, let's get into our topic. So POTA bag is actually lying to you. I am going to be upfront and honest here. We all suffer from this. We may be at different stages of it, but I think one of the things that we really need to know is how has your gear actually earned its place? Like, I think that's a critical process that we have to go through. Coming off of, last week where we talked about Stan and Stan's evolution of being a POTA operator and all of the phases along the line, one of the things that kind of pulled out of that was, Stan and his gear bags, because we had talked a section in there, you get to a certain stage or your second or third phase, and you're like, oh, I have a gear bag for this, I have a gear bag for that, I have a trunk, or I have a POTA wagon, and you start to expand and really just make, a bigger mess of things versus kind of stepping back and taking a little bit of time. So we've all been guilty of this, and I'm going to say that up front. So we're all kind of in the same boat here. So no distrust, what's the word I'm looking for here? I can't think of it at the moment. We're all in the circle of trust here. So let's all help each other through the process and be a little bit more cognizant of how we can be more efficient and better in the process of operating, which basically makes it a little easier for us, and definitely on our physicality of hauling a very large bag around. But here's kind of the scenario. Let me kind of set this so people kind of think of where I'm going with this. You might buy something, and because you buy it for the purposes it's going to make your portable operating easier. Then guess what? It goes in the bag, but it never comes out. We all are guilty of this. We all probably have gear bags. Like I mentioned, I have my QRP bag over here in a little bit, and we're going to, be honest. I'm going to start taking stuff out, and we're going to do a little analysis of my bag there and show you kind of, it does happen, and then worse off is like, we think, oh man, because of last failed activation or whatever, we're like, oh, I need a better organization system. And so we buy these small little organizational pouches, or we find bags with more organizational pouches that we can add to. And now we've kind of compounded the problem because we're organizing stuff we never use. Like it just stays in there with the hopes of, question mark, or, the plan to kind of thing. And basically what happens before long, your POTA station is now turning out to be an HF base station. I make jokes about tongue and humor of the field radio, the FT710, Yaesu's field radio rig. We all know that's not a field radio rig. That's a, small little, home base radio that they're trying to shape into a field radio. We do that with all of our gear at the same time. We overburden ourselves. So this is kind of a Marie Kwan moment, I think is what her name is. Forgive me if I get that wrong, but we're going to start to sort a little bit some of our stuff, but we're going to do it in a way I think is going to be beneficial to all of us here that we can learn from and, make a little bit of a time saver. Because I don't know about you, but if you're just doing POTA or tiles on the air, you're going out to most of your favorite spots. And those favorite spots are pretty accessible by public in most cases. And, you're probably not too far away from your vehicle, but you're always hauling that second, antenna mast, maybe that second battery. Maybe you've upgraded from the backpack to a POTA wagon because your back has been hurting, hauling 50 pounds around, a couple of 100 yards. Let's just stop and let's figure out really what's important. And let's kind of go through, some things. And I'm going to hopefully give you, kind of a baseline to work from. And from that, then you can decide, what works best. But then it'll help you hopefully in the long run that the goal here is to build trust in your bag, in your gear, the radio that consists of it, the antenna, the coax. And then the next step is to maintain that relationship, that one relationship that you built, because it's okay to bring connectors, but when you're just bringing connectors back and forth that are never getting used, are they really valuable anymore? Or that second piece of coax, or that pigtail, or that second HT. It all starts to add up. It's cool at the time because you're bringing all your favorite radios. It's like, bringing all your favorite friends, to a party kind of thing. Well, eventually, times change, you change, that stuff fades and moves off to the side. So we're going to get into our bags, like I said, and I'm going to talk a little bit, but on this, kind of confessions moment here that we're going to get into a bit. So if I'm hitting and striking a chord there, we're going to try to tag you there in the chat. Share some of your one or two items that you might have run into, like I said in the poll, that you just know you bring all the time, but you never use. So let's talk about, the whys here, because I think that's always important before we get into the hows. Why do we overpack? We always do the what if scenarios. And let's be honest here. This is profound for me. This is kind of a Ted Lasso eye-opening moment. We don't pack for reality. We pack for possibility. It's the ham way, right? Like we got to prepare for emergencies. We got to prepare for those moments. We got to think about all of the scenarios that possibly what ifs could happen. And then we pack for it. But do we ever really think that the stuff that we're hauling is ever going to be used? I think what has happened in the evolution is that we've gone from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s ham shack where you just pour everything in your ham shack and it would be there because if the power ever went out, the shit hit the fan, whatever. Bottom line is, you'd have it and you'd be able to, do something with it. Well, when we got into POTA and outdoor portable operations and it became the thing, we just shifted to outdoors. And now we haul our shacks outside. Even though we don't intentionally think we do it, our mindset makes us do it because we're like, what if? And I want to get us out of that what if trap, because you always run into the, I might, and you fill in the blank, need another antenna. I might need, another piece of loose coax because this one could fail on me. But if you tested it, you maintained your bag, it wouldn't. I need to bring that 80 meter antenna because even though I activate only in the middle of the day, I want to have 80 meters. It's kind of that mindset that we develop. And so, and the list kind of goes on, I need FT8, I need a second HT. You start thinking, okay, I now need to have a bag of a bag, and I need to have smaller bags because now I can put more into a space. And all the YouTubers do it. I've seen everybody talk. KM4ACK and others. Great. I love their packs. I love to see how they make them uniquely focused. But they have several of them. And guess what? You start to build this little small in this infographic here, a pile of bags. and what does that do for you? Nothing. It just creates like more confusion because now you've just, made it more complex. But instead of being kind of what I'll say purpose focused or, building a trust in the system or a bag that you have and then maintaining that will help in the long run because then you don't feel like you have to always be the one to have everything. Now, there are exceptions to this. And the one exception I think that comes to mind here is that if you do soda, you have to bring the things for the what ifs because God forbid you get injured on the trail or the radio has a problem or whatever. That's where I see you're so far away from your home base or a place you can put stuff that you want to bring that stuff. Like first aid kit would definitely come into mind. I know I bring a first aid kit with me when I go to every POTA event. I don't think I've ever used it once. I think I pulled the Band-Aid out like 3 years ago. So go ahead.
Listen, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, especially when it comes to something like a first aid kit because that's safety.
I don't disagree with the safety part, but you don't need a tourniquet. You don't need a full like bandage kit, a stitch and suture.
How do you know that?
Because if you have it,
what if you are in a POTA and what if a tree falls on you and chops off your arm and you need a tourniquet?
Shannon, how far away is your car? 100 yards, 200 yards, less than a mile?
Crazier things have happened.
But we're not prepared. You don't build a bag for crazy. Like they call those bags SHFT bags, or when the shit hits the fan. Those bags are fine because that's like a grab and go. I have things that are critical. But we're doing POTUS, guys. We're going out having fun. We're playing radio. Do you think you're going to be in a park that's randomly a tree's going to fall on you, and that you can't have some stranger walk by and help you?
Listen, it could happen, okay?
That's the what if. Stop falling into the trap.
One of the things that we did actually when we went to that place I was telling you about, we went to this little park down the street. It's called Conkers. It's part of the National Forest, and they have like all these different like outdoor activities. One of the activities that they had was bushcraft. So as part of the bushcraft, they had everybody like take 15 minutes and we built these like little shelters out of sticks and then they like threw water on us, right, to see if you got wet. I helped Miles build his hut, but I did not get in the hut. I was like, I'm not getting down there in the dirt. I'm sorry, kid. But so then another thing they did was they had us like make fire using a flint and steel.
Don't disagree with that. But in essence, you're going out into the wilderness on purpose. So I would agree that you should plan for what ifs because you're out in the middle of nowhere. Like I went through wilderness training with Boy Scouts and they very much gave us bare minimums of stuff and we had to learn how to do that. But like I that does not translate to me walking 100 yards to the nearest park bench in my POTA park that I like to go to every week that I see cars pass by all the time. I don't need to bring that full suture kit for me because I'm sure I have cell service and I can call, 911 to come do whatever they need to do and they'll be there in 5 minutes, But yeah, when you're hiking and you're out in the mountains and you're in the middle of nowhere, this stuff, what we're talking about today, does not apply because you should be skilled enough to have those smaller kits, but you're packing light already and you're already planning for, the smallest possible. Like, I mean, you're the K6ARK and K6ARA guys. Like, you see their packs, like they're small and condensed, but they could pack literally an elephant in that small little bag, and they, because they need it, and they probably should at the same time. So a couple of things like, yeah, I mean, Bricker House, yeah, you got it right. Boo-boo kits, okay, like a couple of Band-Aids and maybe super glue. That will get you by if you happen to slice yourself accidentally or you cut yourself on an antenna, piece of an antenna that's sharp or something like that. You can whip out a Band-Aid. That doesn't take a lot of space up. But, if you're packing a 100-watt battery and you're only going out for 2 hours, like there's a imbalance here, guys. There's definitely an imbalance, and we're going to dive into that a little bit. All right.
Ricardo
So
said eventually he wants a small enough kit that Atlas can carry it for me. He won't, but he could. that's like me saying, eventually I want a small enough kit that Miles can carry it for me. He won't, but he could.
I want less than 1 pound challenge. Is that what come to mind? Because 1 pound is too much for me. All right. So we're going to do a little judging session here on your gear. A session. Judging session. Sorry. And so, we want to talk about where the line is between, being prepared and paranoid, because I think we're teetering on that today a lot so far as I see in the chat. But the one thing that we're looking at is that when we judge our gear, and this is, I'm always open to hearing stuff and seeing where I'm a little bit off on this, but I kind of based off of culling the internet and searching, Reddit and all of the other forums and getting, something together while I'm planning for this. This is kind of the bare basic kind of foundational stuff that most POTA activations, again, not that are in the wilderness and you have to hike in 19 miles. This is what you would normally want to at least have in your POTA pack as foundational stuff. And, some of them are up for questions, like the extra fuse. I don't know about you. Have you ever had a radio blow on you?
No.
Never. Yeah. Those are kind of questionable. I could carry 1 or 2 and not feel like I'm taking up a whole lot of space. But, fuses, electrical tape. The electrical tape has saved my butt several times. I keep a roll. Like, actually, when I did the Mount Agmetinus video, I somehow didn't check one of my connectors on the power poles, and I couldn't figure out why my radio pulled, and my negative side to the power pole connector had popped itself out. I didn't have a tool to force it back in, but I was able to electrical tape it and make it work. Now, something that would solve that problem altogether is those power pole adapters. Anybody make those at all? You have a set of those, Shannon?
No, I don't use power poles.
You don't use power poles at all?
No, I don't have anything with power poles.
Wow. Okay. Well, for the rest of us who do, those power pole adapters are awesome, especially if you've got some bare wire or you have a connector, like your 4-pin connector goes bad on your Yaesu or whatever. You can use a power pole connector to make that work pretty quickly and get up and running, in, short order. Then, maybe the electrical tape might take a little longer and, be a little bit more, diligent or focused on doing it. But yeah, things like zip ties, we all need them. We all should use them. There's a couple of times that I've run into needing one. I have bongo ties, which can sort of fix the build, but zip ties, if you need something sturdy and rigid, they'll always be successful. I mean, if we're talking car shows, we all know Roadkill. Roadkill, that's all they ever assembled all their cars with was zip ties and a lot of love. So we know they work. Field notebook, plus for sure. Water, I know there was a couple of folks that had mentioned that. Yeah, water is important. We all tend to forget it. We're not all 20 something where we can kind of get by. It's definitely important, especially when you're out in activation setting up. And then, things, definitely bug spray, DEET. I always carry that around with me. Headlamp is kind of questionable for me. Like, if you don't activate ever in the dark or even towards the evening hours, it's kind of unnecessary in the nature. But if you're, say, in the wintertime around here where it's dark in the morning and dark by 4 o'clock, yeah, bring it with you. That's important because at that point you don't want to get caught. And then I always carry a knife, EDC kind of thing. And then the rain jacket. I usually prepare, and I don't know about how when you do an activation, you usually, as one of your steps, check the weather, right?
Oh, yeah. Obviously, you want to see what the weather is going to be doing. Is it going to be hot? Is it going to be cold? Is it going to rain? Is it going to be thunderstorm? Because obviously, if it's going to be thunderstorm, then you're probably not going to go out. Yeah.
Well, Bob, if you're near your car, then yeah, you can leave it. But if you're possibly going to have a rain, storm come through, it might be worthwhile to, have on you so you don't have to feel like you're getting soaked. But that's a little bit of forethought and planning up front. Makes it easier in the long run. If you don't think it's going to rain or you're not it's going to rain here, don't bring it. Like, don't pack it. Don't have it as part of your bag.
Yeah, or have one of those little fold-up emergency ponchos.
Yeah, exactly. That would work too. Or if you're, the soda crew, you probably have a rain poncho that's literally the size of a quarter. packed down. So, you have that option too as well. Okay, so continuing on, this is kind of that second layer of stuff that happens, and I've seen and been witness to firsthand. A few operators have this stuff in their kits. The analyzer, and I'm not talking like a rig expert stick, something small and light. I'm talking like the A54 analyzers, the rig experts, the one that literally, like, if you needed to use it as a weapon to defend yourself against a bear, you could use that as a weapon. They're huge and obnoxious, and they take up a lot of space, and you're not really gaining anything if you're just checking basic SWR and trying to tune your antenna. Having small, using other techniques might be better in the long run than carrying something so bulky. I've never seen it no, actually, I haven't seen it yet. If you're bringing in multimeter, why? Like, you shouldn't be doing field bench repairs. Like, if your radio's broken and you're cracking out the multimeter, you're doing it wrong, guys. I'm sorry. Take all your gear, go back to your bench, and do the work there. You don't have to do it out in the field. There's just no need. If you're already struggling to figure out why power's not happening and you can't do basic, simple troubleshooting steps, and you have to crack the multimeter out, I think you should probably take your kit back and figure out, and start from square one, what's working, what's not, and, what needs to be really fixed to be rock solid. Now, the extra mic for me is a what if. Like, if you're doing a group activation, I'd say bring it 100%. But if you're, say, doing pass the mic with your buddy who also owns an FT891, make it their responsibility to bring their own mic. You can bring that small little splitter. I have a small little two-way splitter. I carry that around with me all the time, and I just say that if I'm going out to a group, hey, if you got an 891, or I know they have an 891, I just say, hey, bring your mic with you. And if not, then I'll grab my spare one out of my truck, which I have for my HF mobile. Long spare coax, man. Stop bringing it. Like, it's not needed. Like, if you have got working coax and you know it and you trust it, then it's going to continue to give you the support long run. Having extra spares of coax means you don't trust your setup. You don't trust what you have in the bag to work for you. Or you've done nothing like maintenance. Like, you've never gone through and tested your coax and confirmed that things are working. So try to think in terms of trusting the bag and trusting what you have in there and knowing that it works 100% of the time when you're not doing a POTA. And then make adjustments, because if you just bring stuff like this, you're not solving anything. You're adding more back pain, more physical issues, and you're taking up space that normally doesn't need to be taken up. Second HT, here's my thoughts on this. If you go do a POTA and you're not planning on doing VHF or UHF at all, there's no need to bring your HT, because you probably have a mobile in your car, right?
I mean, I know
So,
I do.
Yeah. So you have another way to do VHF, UHF. You're trying to make contacts from the car. There's no reason why you can't. And, after you've packed up and done your HF and you want to get a couple more contacts, you can do that, right from the comfort of your car. But having an HT with you is not really, or even an extra HT. I mean, you can bring if you got a Baofeng Mini, those things are fine to clip on your bag. But if you're bringing a second HT, then, are you planning on doing satellite work? Then you should. Like, make a conscious effort that if you bring those components, that you're going to use them. If you don't, then leave them at home. Just don't bring them, because they're not helping. Yeah, there you go. Nice little chocolate one. Is that the clear one?
Amber.
The amber.
And it is like a translucent amber, so it is almost, like prison cell issue Baofeng. Right.
But one step up. So it's almost like a snack, as they say.
It's like 90s VTech clear telephone vibe.
Okay.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, you do.
If you were a teenage girl in 1998, you had one of those in your room.
Jellies.
Or maybe even if you were a teenage boy.
Sometimes, yes.
I don't know. Do teenage boys have telephones in their rooms, or is that just a girl thing?
No, we did. I did. But mine were like solid colors and cool blue or red. So Rabbit Ham.
Yes,
this is the problem we're addressing. we're addressing this. You will not need to fill your POTA wagon. And here's the thing: is like if you find that you haul all this stuff out of your car into your POTA wagon, and then you take it to the spot, which is 100 yards away, we'll say, and that extra coax still sitting in the wagon at the very end, there's a big red flag right there, guys. You know, like you should be thinking, like, what am I really bringing? Because I probably would guess that you're going to find out that when I start to go through the stuff, that you're going to find that you could create a system that you can grab and go and feel reliable, that you aren't going to miss a single thing.
So, and so Don just said, the extra HT is to pass around to 10 other buddies to activate the park on 2 meters. So, yes, exactly.
Only, Don, if your other 10 buddies literally aren't ham radio operators. Because every other ham brings one. So, like, why would you need to bring your own? Like, do you feel like, there's a germaphobe thing, like using
just
somebody else's?
Just in case somebody didn't bring
No. That's the what if. That's what gets us into trouble.
You got to get that park activation on 2 meters, 70 centimeters. If you can get it, I know there's like that Yaesu, I think it is, right, that does 6 meters, but you have to change the antenna. So if you can get like the park activated on 6 meters, it's so amazing. What? Don just said I actually don't carry an HT.
See?
Don,
I'm telling
what is
you.
the matter with you? You gotta get a Baofeng Mini. Let me tell you.
I have a whole shelf of them. They're all sitting over there back there looking pretty. They don't ever leave with me.
I wasn't even planning on getting this. I got it at Hamvention because somebody came up to a booth. They were wearing one around their neck, and we started talking about it. And they were like, "Oh yeah, they're selling them over at the Radiodity tent, like 2 for $35." So I was like, how can I say no to that? So, I will say that Mike and I have not been as diligent as we should be at wearing our radios around everywhere and, calling CQ on 2 meters. But when we went to the National Tramway Museum in Christchurch a few weeks back, they were having this classic motorbike day. And there were people talking on 2 meters, 2 meter simplex, on there, and unfortunately we were like inside a building, so I couldn't get out and like answer them and get their call signs and everything like that. So we didn't make contact with anybody there, but I think I said the last time I was on the show, because Mike was wearing the Baofeng around his neck, it sparked a conversation with someone at the Tank Fest in Bovington. So we really should get better at wearing our little radios out and talking to each other on 2 meters and trying to,
I
spark
don't
some
disagree with that, but in the confines of this POTA conversation, I 100% agree. If you're not going to use it when you're out doing a POTA, then why bring it? Unless it's a POTA meetup and you're going to have a lot of people spread out, HTs work well, but that's like the backside of comms, and being able to say, hey, what band you're on, that type of stuff. But, for bringing your HT to a POTA to activate, it's like, as Outcast says, well, how are you going to hit the local repeater? Well, you can't make contacts on a local repeater in POTA. So, like, at that point, your HT now is just sitting over here.
But you can get on the local repeater and say, hey, I'm here at this POTA park. I'm going to call out on, 14652 simplex. Can anybody give a listen, see if you can hear me?
Yes, but you already have a mobile in your car. And which is better, 50 watts or 5 watts with a rubber duck? You tell me. I know I struggle calling out on 5.2 on 50 watts in my car, and I have a 5/8 wave antenna. I can imagine I barely make one contact on an HT unless I had 5 other people, like Don said earlier, around me butt to nut.
Yes.
So
should this be like, does anybody do this? And I know they say to do this, like if you Marie Kondo your house, right? Take all of in your closet, you take all of your coat hangers and you turn them around facing the wrong way, right? So that every time you take an outfit out of your closet and then you go to hang it back up, then your coat hanger is facing the right way. So then, like, anything that you haven't worn for like 6 months or a year or whatever, you take it out of your closet and you donate it because, you're not going to wear it. You haven't worn it for a year. it doesn't fit, it's not on
Same thing.
style, whatever.
Same
So
methodology.
is that what we're
A
doing
little
with our
bit,
POTA
yes.
bag? Is like, if you haven't used it for 6 months, then we're gonna take it out of the POTA bag. Mister, I have NFC tags on everything in my POTA bag so that I can track what is in my POTA bag at any one point in time.
Don't sound like a robot there, but thank you. Yes. Yeah. Well,
I am AI
again,
POTA mom.
this is the circle of trust. So I'm going to say honestly, yes, that is part of the reason. I'm not leading towards that, but in essence, that's how I stay organized and my trusting my equipment and my bag and my setup. And so I'm just trying to give others, because I've already been on a POTA meetup with our club. I've been on a POTA event on my own, and one that we just kind of did an impromptu on a Sunday at a park that was literally like 2.5 hours, or no more than that, like almost 3 hours away from the house and all of my equipment. And all of those, I've learned something specific, and I'm sharing that with you because I know, like, I go to the POTA meetup, and I can't tell you why, but people still bring everything and their kitchen sink to a POTA meetup. Why? Like, you're like, I get the easy ups for stuff like that, but like when you're looking at your gear, like there's a 100 amp hour battery, there's a tuner, there's a second tuner because this tuner only does a certain number of manual stuff if you're running a random wire. But if I'm going to run a vertical, I want to run this tuner, and like all of them. Like, guys, this is field day all over again, and you're spending almost an hour setting all of that up. And when, if you just had a system that worked well and you could trust it and you maintained it, you could be up and running while everyone else is kind of just, dragging their feet and trying to get set up and trying to get on the air and on and on and on. So, yeah. Dawn, I just want to point out real quick, yes, that's all HTs are really good for. Walking around Hamfest.
Yeah,
I can't tell you.
And Bob just said, but if you bring your HT, you'll look really cool to all the cute girls. In my case, I want to look cool to all the cute guys.
Okay. All that being said,
how are we going to look cool if we don't have our bow fangs around our necks?
Because we all know ham radio operators. That's number one in all of our top 5 lists of trying to be a ham radio operator. Always trying to look cool.
Yes.
So, all right. Yeah, the Manpack portable sat rig. Yeah, that's a specific case there. But Bricker House, that you've already optimized your satellite rig bag to the best you possibly can, because the nature of satellite contacts and how they operate and stuff like that. You don't always go out to a POTA park specifically to do satellite contacts, although you can. I know a lot of people just do them from, the convenience of their driveways or stuff like that because, it's satellite, But, hey, prove me wrong. Okay, so let's kind of do this last judge of gear before we dive into the confession kind of section here. So, again, this is some of the stuff, the gear that I've seen all the time that we've already alluded to, like that third battery or a second battery for that nature. Like, how many people are carrying 2 batteries with them? Carrying 3 antennas. I'm going to reveal that I'm guilty of that sometimes. Old manuals, I don't know about that. Like, the only time I think they'd even have some value is when I remember doing an activation with Grouch. We hiked Pac Monadnock, and we got up to the top of the mountain, and somehow his FT891 that he brought got stuck into lower sideband, and he couldn't figure out how to get it out of lower sideband on 20 meters. But we had the internet, and so I think paper manuals can kind of go back in the box and be forgotten. So, there's always that. Unused accessories. We all have our little accessory bags. How many of those do we actually go in and pull out the right connector, or, fuddle through all of the other connectors we thought we needed, kind of thing? Again, that's that trust of a bag. And then we always have that mystery pouch, because I think a few people, and we'll go into some of the comments that people said, they have a bag in a bag in a bag. The old nesting dolls. Remember how many of we used to play with those as a kid? Those were fun for a little while, but they get annoying because, we applied it and adapted it to our bags now in POTA and portable. And now I have a bag of a bag, but I don't know why I have that second bag. What was that purpose for? Kind of thing. So, we're trying to cut out that extra mess here. And then that typical thing is always the cable. We always keep a little separate pigtail for maybe that SMA to SO239 connector that we might need when we want to hook up that J pole that we put in our bag that we thought we needed, but we've never taken out. The stuff ringing bells, guys. Well, the silence is deafening. Okay.
Listen,
I know I'm not talking to the right person here.
The amount of unique and niche connectors that
It's
Mike
ridiculous.
has shown me is he always has something to save the day. It's do you want to be the POTA hero? Because if you have everything, you can be the POTA hero. Someday someone is going to you're gonna be at that group POTA and somebody is gonna be like, oh, my this and this doesn't work, or oh, I need a this connector, and you're gonna be like, cha-ching. Or you're gonna be able to make power pole connector wires for somebody on the fly, because one person's gonna have that power pole radio and the other person is still gonna have their Yaesu with the bare wires, not me at all. And you're going to be able to put some power poles on the end of their Yaesu wires so that they can plug it into the battery.
That's a lot to unpack there, Shannon. First and foremost, when you're doing the hero of the day and you're in a group environment, that's not a regular POTA. That's not like you just going out and doing a POTA in a favorite park that you go to frequently with one other person who's, going because they're going to be using your gear kind of thing. That's a POTA event. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of room for you to be able to bring all of the hero gear that you so need. So create a bag that has all of those things like we have in the, infographic here, but keep that at home. And then when you have a chance to go to your POTA event, bring it with you, because then you can be the hero, but then you're not carrying this with you when you go out to do a POTA activation. That's the issue for me, is we take all that crap with us when we're going out by ourselves or we go out with one other person. And I don't recall any of my activations where I've been like, oh my gosh, Todd, let me, I've got the adapter for you because I've been holding this over forever, kind of thing. So that's what we're trying to eliminate here. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to realize. So, okay. So last piece here is obviously the last judgment is important. So let's now get into community confessions here, because I think this is interesting and fun to kind of go over with. So just real quick, the poll ended, obviously, and the one thing that most people had commented on or said was that they are bringing backup antennas, and we're all guilty of it. We all go, say to Reliance Antenna, and we buy the one antenna, and we're like, oh, this is really great, and then we hear that the next one, the Ryberkoff's the best one to go buy, so we go buy it. And then we never use it, and it sits in the bag. But one day we're going to be able to go back and use it, and it just sits there and sits there and sits there. Or we think, hey, I'll put that in my QRP bag because one day I'll be able to go out and do it. But it requires bringing a mast, and why would I bring a 10-meter mast on my now QRP bag? And you kind of do all of these weird mind thought dance instead of just being very succinct and clear as to what you're trying to do, and what you're trying to act on. So let's pop over here, and I want to talk on some of the comments. And again, I thank all the folks that contributed there on YouTube and over in Discord. So let's kind of go over them real quick. So the first one I got from Kevin, Ham Radio QRP K0KLB. We all know Kevin. He does his QRP net on Sundays, and he's always fun to watch how he goes out and does his weird antenna setups out in the cornfields. But he says he carries a USB light that will plug into his mini solar charge pack for when he operates in the dark. However, I never activate in the dark because I'm past my old man bedtime. But he still carries his light. That's the thing I'm talking about. We do the what ifs. How, we do that little mind dance. So this is hopefully starting to jive with you here. Gamer Kid says coax, which we all know. He's got a new shorter 50-foot coax, so you don't need to haul the 100-foot of coax, but it's still in his sled. Not okay. You're now carrying 150 feet of coax. That's not helpful. like I would say even take the next step and let's pare it down. Go 25 feet or 15 feet. Because how far is your antenna away from you, kid? Like you're not putting out a kilowatt. Like Jason did a video on, POTA Park where he was operating a kilowatt. Yeah, I want my antenna as far away from me as possible. Then I'm putting 100 feet of coax out. But that's you're not bringing a kilowatt amplifier with you every POTA activation. Maybe you are. Then we'll talk. You might be a special rare case, but most people aren't. 100 watts, you can get away with 15, 20 feet of coax and be okay. But at least we're seeing him, reduce and reuse. All right, Noah says, going to be so real for me, the backup battery. Yes. Well, if you're already carrying around a 100 amp hour battery, you're probably way too much at this point. Maybe size reduced based off of your operating time. It seems, he says, always when I'm portable, I always use less power than I expect, 100%. Whether you're running the power lower on the radio or you're just operating times, from, a 4 or 5 hour POTA go to 2 hours. Yeah, you don't need to add that much of a battery. You can get away with something a little smaller and, a little less back pain. All right. WD0OM Ham Radio says, first of all, I totally nest bags inside of bags, the nesting doll, problem. And he has plans and his plans get worse as he continues to go about it. He says his gear hasn't earned a place. Honestly, it's radios, which is actually probably true. I mean, he goes into the fact that he's it's weird to say, but there is enough time for both to play with radios that I know there's a lot of words here, not enough grammar here change, but he basically says that, he's bought radios like the SBitX and the QMX, and all of those kits, and he sort of built them, but then they didn't get fully built the right way, and so he gave them to a buddy to get them, tuned so they could work, but then he realized that, the SBitX requires new firmware, and then he has to retune. So you have this conundrum where now you have all of these radios that you were hopefully going to take out in the field, and they're now all collecting. Now, he's not carrying them out in the field, but his shack is starting to accumulate, half projects that are half-baked or not fully complete. And he hasn't gotten through that purging process. Marie Kwan? Did I say Kwan or what?
No, Marie
Kondo. Sorry, I can always get. I don't know why Marie Kwan comes to mind.
I think
but
Marie Kwan is like, isn't she an Olympic ice skater?
Is she? She might be. Yeah, probably. Yeah, you might be right. The Marie Kondo. My mistake. Go back and re-edit the video. Either way, thanks for the chat for not correcting me. But either way, he's like, I need to purge some of those and make new homes for them. And I kind of can share that, sentiment, because I bought the True SDX when it came out and everyone's like, oh, it's a great kit. And then I didn't put it together for a little while. And I heard all the stories. Oh, you got to wind those toroids. Wind a toroid. I'm like, oh yeah, not interested. And so I gave it off to a friend, and he actually built the whole entire thing, and he's used it and gotten his life out of it, and the return on investment. So, find a new homes for the things that aren't like, giving you, what does she say, value, or giving you, the warm and fuzzies. What's her phrase?
What?
Marie Kondo.
Does it bring...
bring joy. Kondo. That's it.
Yeah, does it bring you joy? Does it spark joy? When you hold it, does it spark joy?
Yes. So we're butchering her name today.
If it doesn't spark joy, then you're supposed to get rid of it. She also says you're not supposed to have more than 100 books in your house at like any one time.
Oh, okay. What about your phone?
I think she means like physical dead tree books.
Got it. All right. Pepe. He says a flashlight in his case is already dark when I'm finishing my activity and need to light it up. But again, he's the same way. He's like, I never stay that long anyway, so I've never needed it. And then he said a small first aid kit. Now, I would say even reducing the small first aid kit to something smaller, like a couple of Band-Aids and a few little, super glue bottle or something like that, that may go a longer way. As long as again, that whole issue is if you're in a safe place and you can get to some civilization, or you're near people and you're not in the middle of the woods and, where the bears in nature outnumber you, then, you should plan for those bigger things, because those are when you're going to really need them, because nature is, nature can tear you apart limb from limb pretty quickly if you're not prepared. All right, Chris, KD9YSW Radio and Life. He says, since getting ABR coax, I have no need for all the adapters for antenna and such, which he's probably realized that the ABR coax he got matches his radio interface. And we're going to go over that real quick in my bag because I want to kind of bring attention to that. And he says, my Nano has not been out there or out of the box since I put it in my bag, which... How many of us bought that Nano VNA because we heard all the YouTubers said, yeah, we need it, we should have it. I mean, you have one, Shannon. Do you really use it a lot?
Not really.
Yeah. So, but you still carry it.
If I was going to build antennas, then, I would probably use it more. But, I have yet to really build very many antennas aside from like random wires. So,
yep.
But it is sort of useful when you're trying to tune the Wolf River coil, when you're trying to use the actual coil, to get above,
SWR
below,
or whatever.
When you're trying to get below 20 meters, when you're trying to get up to like 40 meters or 80 meters, it's helpful because like you just move that little sleeve a teeny tiny bit and it just changes the frequency that you're on. So.
Yep.
Makes it a little easier than having to run back and forth between the radio and the antenna and like keep putting up the AM carrier to see where it's at and all that good kind of stuff.
Yep, it avoids those extra steps. But it's funny that you just mentioned that because a lot of people don't even know how to do that AM carrier stuff too. It's like it's amazing how like none of that's ever really kind of taught or shown to people in a pinch, and a lot of people just have a failed activation because they didn't realize, hey, if you just did these 2 extra steps, you could still tune your antenna. And get on the air with a reasonable SWR, and most people don't know that. So that might be a better useful thing to have in your toolkit than worrying about whether you have an analyzer to tell you whether you're right or wrong. So Roger says paper, log, and pen, which, tugs on the heartstrings of Shannon. She loves that. Although he says, I haven't had to use it since switching to Polo. So as long as he continues to carry said mobile device here, he's in the good sorts. But yes, paper and pen, I do carry myself. I think it's important. It's definitely good of a backup. I'd say it's good of a backup, not so much for logging, but I've used it in cases where someone came up to me and said, hey, I'm interested, blah, 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 wanted to get, more information from me. So I said, here, take the notepad, fill out all your contact info and your call sign and stuff. And, that's how I used to capture it because it was just an easier way. And, it's not something that takes up a lot of space unless you're a full notebook person kind of thing and a leather bound, book with the dividers. And yeah, that's too much.
Yeah, I was looking for my logbook because I thought it was right here, but I think I put it back in my bag because I thought we were going to do a POTA one of these days, but then we didn't really go out and do POTA. We just took Miles to the playground so we could run around and play. But you know me, I always have my ARRL logbook, and I actually I'm going to get an RSGB logbook when we go to Bletchley Park, so hopefully I'll have, a logbook from each side of the pond. But, Mike still has his logbook from like the 1980s. It's so cool to, look back at his, contacts from way back in the day.
I'd be nervous with that.
Which is the reason why, I've said before, I firmly believe in having a paper log because it's not going to be the same if you go back and look at these digital Polo logs. It doesn't hold the same nostalgia when you're not seeing it in your own handwriting and your own little notes and, the dates and the times and stuff. Or like also the fact that you can't document one-way propagation on Polo if you call someone and they don't hear you when you're trying to answer them back. So, those are my reasons for having that paper logbook.
Don't disagree.
Or you can use Polo, like your phone could die or their internet could not work or like so many things could go wrong with those digital loggers.
Well, Polo works perfectly fine with no internet, but whatever.
I've had so many people, they're like on POTA and you're trying, like they're doing their POTA and you're calling them or you're listening to them and they're like, oh, wait, hold on a minute. My screen froze. I got to figure out what's going on with my logger here.
That's fine, man. No problem. It'd be no different. Like, oh, my radio sucks. My antenna fell over. Hold on a sec. I got to go fix it kind of thing.
What doesn't freeze? pen and paper? Or
They
pencil
do.
and paper. Pencil and
Pencil
paper, I
can
should say.
break. Pen can run out of ink.
No.
Paper can basically get wet and become useless. So don't give me the right on rain stuff because then that's a special case. Anyway, so I apparently struck a.
Bring that propelling pencil. If it breaks, you just click a couple more.
Yeah, roger that. So apparently I struck a chord with a marital issue here, so I'm going to tread lightly on this one. But, Sean says, and this is from him, not me, so don't shoot the messenger.
Where is it?
He says, I carry a whole set of adapters, and I carry just in case, while I also carry a separate bag for BNC adapters. So he's already carrying a whole complete set of adapters and then additional BNC adapters like he's a drug dealer selling off, the back of the truck kind of thing. He says, I probably won't change it, though, because it's for when I'm using other people's stuff and they forget something, which, if you're doing group stuff, yeah, that's a good place for that stuff to come with you. But when you're alone or with your spouse, then, you may not need it. And he says he carries a big antenna tuner, and I'd like to swap it out with a smaller one. I left off the last part of the section because he had mentioned how he's the pack mule of a certain, other significant other, and that he just packs whatever he's supposed to, and he's supposed to haul it out there himself. I left that off, but I know Shannon's already, commenting on it in the chat there. He was nice to say that he would definitely like to reduce the POTA wagon there a little bit, but he'd have to consult others before he made any changes. All right, so we got a couple, you want to go through, I'm going to just set up here real quick. If you want, Shannon, you want to go through the starred ones of a few in the chat that I tagged earlier of, things that they've run into.
Oh, yeah, let's see if I can.
Yep, let me add you in here.
Let's see. Shannon Jabberjaw says, my purse carries all that stuff, just saying those are not just POTA or radio related necessities. Exactly. Us ladies, we know what it's like to, carry all of these things for the just in case what if scenarios. And I miss the days when Miles was a baby, right? Because I used to have the whole diaper bag, and you would have like the diapers, the wipes, the little toys to keep him occupied. And now I've like gone down to this, like I've actually been carrying a tote bag since I've been here in England, because you got to have like your bag, because everywhere you go charges for bags. So it's like I have a tote bag, it's filled with bags. But yeah, baby wipes are like, they are just God's gift to the earth, because they are so handy for everything. I really should just keep them in my POTA bags. You can use it to wipe your radio, wipe your hands, wipe your kid's face when he gets cream cheese all over it.
Then when you're in your 70s, they come back around again. So, honey, come over here. You're looking really horrible. Let me fix what's on your face. All right. Well, with this, we're going to dive into, like I said, I'm going to put where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to honestly go through my bag here. Now, this is my Beach Go bag for those that may not be familiar with it. It's a 511 bag that is only dedicated to beach activation. So the premise behind it is that my wife loves the beach. She loves to go in the, any time of the day that she possibly can. And she basically is like, you look bored. I'm like, yeah, I am bored. And so she was like, okay, well, you should bring a radio. So I have created a bag that literally is a grab for me and go, and I can get set up at the beach pretty quickly and play a little radio when I want to. And most of the time it's like FT8, because I don't want to obviously interfere or cause any emotional stress with, sideband there. But, every once in a while she doesn't mind me playing a little sideband. So, we're going to kind of go through my bag here a little bit with the intention to show you that some of the stuff is still, I've gone through the Marie, the methodology of trusting this bag. I know I can grab this bag anytime and make it, get on the air and make an activation and have fun. And then I can go back to the shop and plug things I need to plug back in and get back up and running. So let me drag the mic over here a little bit, and I'll give you this stuff. Now, you guys might recognize this. This is one of those items that I had over the past year or so, kept in my bag. This was way back in the time before we started the Cha Elegance, antennas with the tripods. This was kind of one of those Amazon purchases that everybody had. and used. And of course, I hopped on the bandwagon and did the same thing. And this is a great little tripod, but I took it out of the bag because one, it is pretty much the same size as the bag and took up a lot of space. But two, I didn't use it. I never really used it at the beach because I have another, bag that has my antenna specifically for beach setup in it. And so I took it out. And so this now sits in my POTA storage box. And so this is an example of something like this. If you've got something like this in your bag with the hopefulness that you're going to use this, you're not. Take it out. Put it off to the side. Get rid of it. Move on with life. Create more space and more room for love of other things that could be useful in your activation. So I've got a little light off here. I did a little review on this O light, and this O light's awesome for, just in case when we do late activations in the sun setting, I've got a little light there and it stays on the bag. Great little setup. But ultimately in this bag, I can do everything I need and not ever have to change anything out. And so on this side, real quick, I always keep 2 or 3 of these because you never can go wrong with having any of these S-beaners. Matt made them in my favorite N1JOR blue color. And so I use, these on all my bags. So let's do a side kind of view of what I've got set up in here. So this side is always how I get things up in terms of antennas. Let me be clear on that. Now I was saying that out loud, it's probably not a good way. I usually keep several versions of paracord in here. You can never have enough of paracord of different lengths. And so I've got a very, about 150 feet or so of that. And then I've got small ones, for like the anchor points of the mast and stuff like that. And then I've got a specific one that I kind of created that was more for visual side of the elements with both a hook on the other end and a carabiner on the other end for being able to quick clip in and unclip out of stuff. And then I always have a throw weight. So if I'm at the beach and there's some trees or a way I can go up to the tree line, I'll always have a throw weight. And all of my bags always have one of these because even though it's a little heavy, they are worth their weight in gold when you throw them and being able to get an antenna line up fast. And at the same time, I've also, my gosh, this has got a little bit of hole in it. So I've failed already on the maintenance side. I just realized it because now I'm spilling little, beads out of it. But it's had its abuse. I also use this as a weight for vertical antennas. So if I have a vertical antenna with me, I use this as a little bit of a weight, and it works out great because it's just heavy enough to keep the antenna base from falling over. And again, another piece of paracord. So really, that's just the paracord side. And all of that pretty much packs down and stays off to the side and gets my antenna set up or wire set up in a form or fashion. Flip it over. This is where kind of the heart and soul of everything falls into. And how's the chat there doing, Shannon? If, I get questions or whatever, I'm happy to stop and answer.
Oh, yeah. No, James was just saying he likes the tripod, and he uses an old camera tripod.
Yep.
And Roger McKeon said 511 makes good bags. I'm not sure
That's what
that
this is. Yeah, 511 is this. Yep. They're military, police, municipality type bags, and these things are super indestructible, but they're great for storage and stuff.
Yeah. James says he just got a Weaver Arborist throw set. And Outcast wants to know what is the thickness of the paracord.
The paracord is the old Harbor Freight. Well, they all vary. So this is probably like 50 or 100 feet. It's probably like 100 feet. And then I've got larger sizes of, and it's all Harbor Freight stuff because you can tell it's fraying and stuff like that. But it's not really like, it's disposable. And paracord for me is always disposable because, you cut it up and you can chop it up and you're not spending a whole lot of money, and you can get paracord at Harbor Freight for like $5 for, a 4 or 5 rolls or whatever it is. So cheap stuff.
So I'm curious to know what you're going to do about your throw weight there. Are you going to are you going to sew that up or patch it or darn it?
I don't know. It looks, it's got a nice rip in it. So it's going to be like, the problem with the throw weights is that's machine stitched, as I'm not even in the camera view. So I'll have to take a peek at it, but now that it's got a rip in there, they're cheap enough that I might just go buy a couple more and just throw this one away. Because I'm afraid.
So
well,
wasteful.
Not wasteful. Here's the catch. Every arborist will tell you that this is worth its weight in gold. And if it's not working well, that's going to, that fray is going to catch on a tree branch. It should probably already did. And so that's just going to keep ripping and ripping. I probably could stitch it. I might try stitch it just to see what I can do, but I have a feeling they stitched it really well, and even my attempt to sew any decent is going to just, fail in the long run. So either way, I'll have to make a change in that bag. So as you saw the little flip out thing here, this is all part of the 511 bag. And this is kind of one of those things that I subscribe to. Josh H. Ham Radio Crash Course is good on, spending money on good quality bags. This is a great bag for this because the fact that this does not come out. It's part of sewn in. It is great for flipping out and being able to have storage. So I've got my power cord for my FX4CR in the bag. And that just sits in here. And again, it's not anything else. It's, power pulled on one end, as I'm showing over here, power pulled on one end. And, the other end is that weird FX4CR connector, which is like a RC hobby connector, which you can't change. And then in this connector, I do not have connectors that are not for the antennas I have in my bag. So you're not going to find an end connector in here. You're not going to find an oddball SMA to whatever. You're going to just find connectors that allow me to go from a transformer to a coax. And that is pretty much the extent of it. So there's bridging component, like I have barrel connectors in here, as you might see. And I have, basically BNC, because that's my radio type. And so this is what I was getting to, is having the right coax and the right connectors for the radio you're using, because you start with your radio and that's whatever the connector you're going to use. And you then just assemble the rest of the entire complete setup along the type of connector you're using. So I have BNC coax. I have, an SO239N for my coax side on my transformer, so I don't ever lose it and stays on it. And I only keep one or two of them, of that flow in the setup. So if I have to bridge stuff, I can do that. But I'm not going beyond the radio type that I have in here. The next pouch I have in here is another zipper pouch. Again, that's just two things: the USB-C cable to 1/8 inch for FT8 for the radio, the microphone, which I might want to upgrade because this microphone is subpar. It's not that really great, but it's the radio that comes with the FX4CR, and again, that's a small little mini DIN connector. And then in here, the last piece I have is a specific Android tablet for FT8CN, because I use digital. If I'm at the beach, I use digital, and I do it through this because the radio does Bluetooth, and this stays charged if it needs to be. But like I said, all my bags go always through the process of making sure all the devices are topped off and charged and ready and available and whatnot. Now up here, I've got Write and Rain books. These are awesome, especially at the beach. The beach is super moist. It sucks. It'll ruin paper. Perfect for the rain scenario. So there's that. And then, like I said, in a pinch, I bought a whole bunch of these, and these are well worth the money. This is a 1,000 amp hour power bank, so I can charge my phone if I'm doing an extended FT8 session, or my cell phone, needs to be charged or whatever. And I have the adapters in the bag for that too as well, for my type of phone and the Android, which is already USB-C. And again, standardizing on USB-C makes things much easier, and simplification for connectors and the whole 9 yards. Again, I'm trusting this because I've tested it when I'm not doing a POTA. I've tested it on the bench. I know it works. Now, getting into the bag. Let's close this up a little bit here real quick. So this is where I fall short. This is all my antennas. I am also suspect to having 3 antennas in my bag. And so let me show you what I have, and I'll tell you what I don't use, and I'm probably going to pare it down. I've got a Reliance antenna bug out dipole. This has never been used, but I bought it because I thought one day I might do it. Never put it up. So this, for me, is not ever going to, continue to reside in the bag. So This is the stuff that I'm talking about, guys. Like, you have an antenna with the hopes you might use it. You're probably not. So take it out, put it off to the side, and then go through that life cycle. Hey, does it need a new home, give it to new ham kind of thing, because you're probably not going to use it. It's kind of the nature of it. So find, a better use for it somewhere else. And I'm sure you'll be much happier. I know I am when I pass that stuff on. The go-to antenna I have is obviously the end-fed. This is a 4010 bug out. And like I said, the adapter is pretty straightforward. I keep all of these on the transformer and don't change. So that allows me to go to SO239 to PL259 and then the BNC, lovely bridge that creates the connection between coax. Now, that's if I'm using another antenna. If I'm not, and I'm using the antenna that, I want to use in the bag, I've got RG316. And that's BNC. It has the chokes on it. Works great. You don't need that much when you're running QRP. So this works wonders. It's like 20 feet. And, does the job. James, I saw the comment there. I don't know if I'd use it as a doublet. I might. But again, I've not experimented enough to think about what, antennas should replace this. Because when I go to the beach, this does the job well and does it in a small enough space and allows me to play in the bands I want to play with. But again, this is a purpose-driven, kind of bag. It's not like I'm doing this for every POTA type of activation. And this probably would not work if I went out and work as effectively for me in a park because I am doing it for a different purpose. Last one, obviously, is this 9 amp hour battery. This works great for about 2.5 hours running 20 watts FT8 and, has never failed me whatsoever. And then obviously the last thing is the FX4CR, which I keep literally. The only thing I have is this 3D printed stand because doesn't come with anything else. And this thing has been wonderful. It has the original firmware on it. I think I haven't changed it. And so, it is my go-to radio in my kit. I love it. I've never had any problems with it. It's always been reliable when I go out to the beach. And again, it stays that way because I don't have to worry about, not having a beach go-to radio. And so that's kind of the bag and all of the inner workings of it. Yes, I always need to change. And that is, the antennas are a perfect example of that. I probably will need to, go through another evolution of it. And now that I'm, tearing this apart, yeah, it's starting to show very quickly. And this is kind of one of the things that I want you guys to do here as well as a challenge to kind of wrap this up for you guys. So let's go back to the presentation here real quick. So I got a little bit of a challenge for you guys. And I want you to try this, and I want you guys to report. And so we already talked about some of the stuff that actually, works for gear. I won't go into that anymore. We already talked about the 3 tests. So a little bit of the 3 tests is the same approach. Is that test 1, is it worth keeping? Does it prove itself? Whatever that item is. Doing these 3 steps are going to help you get to building a kit like this. 2, has it rescued you in some form or fashion, like having a Leatherman or having extra paracord or electrical tape. Those components are the stuff that should be in every bag and tried and true and never change. And then the last one is the think about it. What does it do? Does it create peace of mind? Does it add extra weight? All of those components all make up what you're going to do to tear into all your Go kits. And it's okay to have separate kits. I know you might have the same radio that goes across all 3. That's fine in the long run, as long as the kit has all of the components in it that helps you, have a better activation and an activation you can trust. So here's the challenge. I want you guys, first and foremost, before your next activation, think about lightening up your bag, lightening up your wagon. It's okay to have extra space because if you have extra space, it might give your mind a place to free up and come up with better ways to optimize what you have in your POTA arsenal. 2, open that radio bag like I just did. Go through it. Put it on the bench. Look through it. Analyze it. Be honest with yourself. Decide, does this fly? Does this not fly? Like I did with the dipole. I'm never going to use it. I haven't used it. Find a new place for it. Pass it on. Then try removing one item if you have way too many things. If you've got a bag full of, you have a bag of connectors, Don't bring that second bag of connectors. Try pulling it out and then go do your POTA activation. Did you suffer? No? Okay, well, try paring down a little bit. Try maybe reducing, coming up with a solution that only applies to the bag you're using, in terms of the radio connectors, the coax, the antenna. Last one, take it out on 3 activations. This is the hard one. Try it with 3 activations. Don't just do it on one and then give up. Try 3 separate activations in 3 different areas. Like try 3 different parks, because each of those are going to give you a different idea of what works and what's not. And then after you've done all that, if you don't miss it after those 3 activations, it didn't belong in the bag. Find a new home or make a new bag for that antenna or that radio or that setup for another purpose that maybe you were thinking you were going to use for it, but you forgot about it and you just threw it in your general POTA bag. I say this honestly, like, guys, if you take the time to do this, you're going to be so much happier with a lot of your future activations. You're going to take a lot of the less stress that you're creating for yourselves in different forms of fashions and make it more fun when you go out to do a POTA operation, because you're not thinking about, did I forget this when I left the POTA meetup because I brought a bag of a bag, or I have a POTA wagon, did it fall out, kind of thing. Help reduce and then reuse in some other fashion, either in your own setups or pay it forward to another ham, because I'm seeing a lot of new hams come in that can't, like even the younger generation, they can't afford a lot of this gear. They don't know where to spend their money, and they have very limited amounts of it. This is a perfect way to be able to pass this on, and then pass on being an Elmer, showing them how to use it, showing them how to get it integrated. And I guarantee it'll be worth its weight in spades that you've done that, than if you kept it and held on to it with the hopeful one day it's going to, pay out, because it probably won't. It'll just sit in a box. And, I don't want it to be like that. I want people to be more on the air. I want them more on, playing radio. And if you can equip them to do that, then, you've done your job here. I think that's pretty cool. So hopefully this sits with you guys. I know some people are thinking, I'm going to die with all the most toys, or I want the most POTA bags. But at the same time, think about it a little differently. Shannon, what's your take on it?
First of all, Bricker said, should we share pictures on the Discord, lay everything out, have a POTA roast?
Yeah, I'd agree.
So like I said, it's like roast my shack, but roast my POTA wagon.
Cool. Yeah, good idea. So hold one thought. Yes, let's do that. I'll put a post out on the Discord there. So if you want to be in on it, maybe next week we'll do this and we'll go through each of the bags and we'll do a little analysis if Shannon's around. If not, maybe I'll bring on a couple other guests and we'll have a little fun at it.
But and then here's my other thought is, who was it? Somebody said, if you saw the trunk in my ridge line, you'd be scared. So hear me out, because this, this thought came to me when you were talking before about having all the tools to do, like repairs on the fly and everything. And I remembered I bought this book at the Tank Museum that I looked at it, the first couple days after I got it. And now it's in my, it's in my suitcase packed away. But it's like a book of all these different, U.S. Signal Corps vehicles, right? And one of them is the radio repair truck, that it's all built out with a workbench and soldering irons and drawers for everything you need, and tubes and valves. So
is that your next vehicle purchase?
But what, how people build like camp kitchens into the backs of their, Subarus, or, you build in this whole little camping thing into the back of your, your truck or your van, whatever it is. I mean, what if you just built your own ham radio repair workbench POTA station into the back of your vehicle, and then you don't have to worry about taking anything out of the bag because it's all in your vehicle anyway.
Well, two things with that. I like the idea, but what are you doing it for? Are you doing it for preparedness, or are you doing it to be the hero?
Both. You have to be prepared for yourself, but then you can be the hero to somebody else.
But here's the thing. So if you're doing it as we'll say your support team to a Baja team that goes out in the desert, that's kind of what I see that as. You're more of like, hey, I pull up to a POTA park in general. I'm not activating, But in essence, I could be the person to save the day for anybody, antennas and
I
that
mean,
stuff.
but you
You,
could
you,
still
you become the
activate.
snap-on tool guy, basically, is what you are.
You're the snap-on tools of ham
Which
radio.
actually sounds like a really cool business, because ultimately, if you could drive around to parks and you have the POTA, the POTA tools, and people just kind of buy stuff out of your truck for any of those activations, it might hold some water, but you know, I would say yes, I like the idea, but two, what are you doing it for? Because if you're just accumulating more weight in your vehicle, you're now causing yourself another bigger problem down the road, which is, now you have to carry large batteries because you should be doing soldering at that point for, connectors that need to be soldered on. And, maybe you could do quick electronics repair. So you should bring that multimeter and see where it's happening. You're already taking your shack.
Exactly.
You're taking your shack and putting it in your vehicle. There's no
Yeah.
just invite them to your shack. Go back.
Multiple shacks. And in terms of the soldering iron, if you have a gas-powered soldering iron, you don't have to worry about having
Is there such a
batteries.
thing? I thought that's a welder, but whatever.
Yeah. No. Golf Zero RFD just pulled one out so he could repair something on his radio. He's over there doing radio repairs while I'm over here trying to do a show.
Smart man. He's doing it on his bench, not out in the field.
And I guarantee you, if we were out in the field and something went wrong, he would be prepared to fix it.
Sure.
And yeah, so but your idea of like being the snap-on tools guy and like driving around to the parks, I just had this vision of like, you got like your trench coat and you're like, hey, you need some connectors.
Don't look over there. He's the weird one in the alley, but he'll get you the right end connector you need.
It's like the black market of ham radio gear.
Whatever fell off a truck, we'll get you it. No problem. Awesome. All right, well, let's wrap this up because I have, lovely furry creatures that want to go outside, apparently.
Yeah, it's like
and,
it's
no
past 5 o'clock here.
o'clock.
I could be brewing right now.
It's 12 o'clock. This is a monumental record. We've gone a little long, so it's all good and all fun. But, wrapping up, heck, your experience doesn't teach you what your gear to buy. It teaches you what gear you no longer need. That's the one thing I'm just going to leave you guys here with that. Dwell on that a little bit. Think about that. Because, experience never replaces uncertainty. I like, for me, that is like a rock solid. Like, I will always trust someone over experience than someone who just is like, hey, I'll just, fake it till I make it kind of thing. So, we're going to put a bow on this, guys. I appreciate everybody. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully it's something, that just makes you kind of think about your POTA gear a little bit more and the process around it, and helps you get to be a more efficient operator, where in turn you can then turn that stuff into bringing more hams into the hobby and getting more people on the air, and making things more. It's basically a selfish thing. It's a cycle circus, a vicious cycle that we're causing more people to get onto the radio because you're passing more gear on and they're getting on the air, and now we're making more contacts, and so you're just kind of self-feeding the system. So yeah, that's kind of my high pie in the sky theory, and hopefully you guys agree with it too. And so with that, thanks again for hanging out with us today and being part of Brew and Activate. Shannon and I love doing this stuff, and I'm glad she's back and in the saddle and sharing some of her experiences over the pond. And we've got a lot more coming for sure. So with that, any last minute things you want to throw in there, Shannon?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, if I didn't say it before, your beard is looking great. So, may your whiskers never fall out.
They already did. They're gone.
I feel like that was something from Lord of the Rings.
Was it?
I think that was a quote in there somewhere. But yeah, so keep it growing. I'm liking the I'm liking the shagginess there.
Well, if you want to stay ahead of that and on top of the latest updates and all of my thoughts, then head over to n1jur.com beard-log and beard-log, and all of my thoughts and musings are all up there. So you can hear all of my pains and struggles and thoughts on the whole process. So good deal. All right, well, let's put
a little just for men there.
No, I'm not. It's gonna stay salt and peppery. That's the way it goes. We're not colorizing anything here. All right. Well, if you're that, then thank you again for hanging out with us on Brew and Activate. If remember that whether you're activating, you're hunting, or activating or hunting, I should say leave it at that. The goal is simple: have fun, stay safe. Guys, keep exploring. And until next time, as we always like to say, Shannon, keep your radios on,
Your PTT
PVTT
down,
down, and
POTA
POTA on.
on.